All right, everybody, welcome to another deep dive. Today we're heading into the world of, well, megastructures, the longest bridges on Earth, to be exact.
Some impressive engineering feats, for sure.
You guys send in a ton of articles and research on this, so we've been digging through it all, trying to pull out the most interesting bits for you.
It's quite a rabbit hole to go down, I have to say. Lots of interesting stuff out there.
I bet when you think longest bridge, you picture, I don't know, some grand historical landmark. Something like that.
Yeah, something with a lot of, well, history.
What if I told you the world's longest bridge is actually in China?
Not surprising, really, when you consider the scale of infrastructure projects they take on.
And it carries high-speed trains.
It's true. The Danyang-Kunshan Grand Bridge, finished back in 2011, stretches a mind-blowing, get this, 164.8 kilometers.
That's over 102 miles. I was looking at some satellite images, and it's crazy. It looks like this thin ribbon just connecting cities across this vast landscape.
It's hard to grasp the sheer scale of it until you see it in person, or at least in those aerial shots.
So tell me, what makes this bridge so remarkable, besides just its sheer length, obviously?
Well, for one thing, it's a viaduct-style bridge. Basically a raised platform.
Yeah.
Supported by a continuous series of, well, piers or towers, like a long elevated roadway. This type of design is perfect for areas like where this bridge is, the Yangtze River Delta.
Which is a pretty low-lying area, right?
Exactly. But the challenges they faced went way beyond just length, believe me.
Okay, you've got me hooked. What kind of challenges are we talking about here?
Imagine building something this massive on, well, essentially soft, shifting soil. That's the Yangtze River Delta. Not exactly the ideal foundation.
So how did they manage to actually build something that enormous on what sounds like pretty unstable ground?
Lots of very specialized techniques. They had to improve the ground itself, strengthen it constantly as they were building.
So it's like building on sand, but times 1,000.
You got it. And then, of course, there's the matter of extreme conditions. This bridge has to be able to withstand some serious stuff. Magnitude 8 earthquakes, typhoons, even impact from large ships. They really thought of everything.
Wow. It's like they engineered this thing to withstand practically anything nature could throw at it. How does a structure that long even stay up, let alone survive an earthquake?
Some very clever engineering, that's how. For one, they used seismic isolation bearings.
Which are?
Think of them like giant shock absorbers. They're placed between the bridge's foundation and its main structure. So when you have an earthquake, instead of the whole thing shaking violently, these bearings let it move a bit, absorbing all that energy.
So they isolate the bridge's movement from the ground.
Exactly. It minimizes stress and, well, damage. And that's just one of the techniques they use to make it earthquake resistant.
This wasn't just about connecting point A to point B, was it? This was about anticipating and overcoming a whole bunch of potential problems.
Oh, absolutely. And this whole approach, thinking big and tackling these huge challenges, it's something you see again and again in China's longest bridges.
Right. You said earlier that China holds a bunch of records for the longest bridges in the world. So what other crazy engineering feats should we know about?
Well, there's the Cangde Grand Bridge. It's the third longest in the world, over 115 kilometers. This one's interesting because it doesn't just go over water. I mean, it crosses rice paddies, canals, even cuts across part of a lake.
It's like woven into the landscape almost, connecting all these different ecosystems together. Talk about overcoming geographic obstacles.
That's a big part of it. This drive to, well, develop infrastructure no matter what's in the way. But it's not just about engineering for engineering's sake. There's a real economic strategy behind it, too.
Okay, let's get into that. How do these mega bridges translate into actual economic benefits? I mean, I'm guessing creating jobs during construction is a big one.
Definitely. You're talking thousands of jobs, not just during the build, but for ongoing maintenance, too. Some research suggests that every $1 billion invested in this kind of infrastructure creates at least 13,000 jobs across the board.
That's a lot of jobs. But what about the long-term effects? How do these bridges actually contribute to the economy as a whole?
Well, think about it. You've got improved access. That means businesses can grow, tourism can flourish, people can get around easier for work, for leisure, whatever. It sets off a chain reaction, boosting the whole region.
It's not just the immediate jobs, then. It's about creating opportunity, stimulating the whole area.
Precisely. And there are historical examples of this, too. Look at the Brooklyn Bridge in New York. Before that bridge connected Brooklyn to Manhattan, Brooklyn was pretty isolated. Once it was built, growth exploded. Brooklyn's population nearly doubled in just 15 years.
So a single bridge can completely change the fate of a region. Amazing.
They're like, I don't know, arteries, pumping life and energy into everything they connect.
That's a great analogy. But since we're talking about history and economics, I'm curious, is there a connection between these mega bridges and, well, China's economic rise over the last few decades?
Absolutely. It's all about connection. These bridges are a symbol of China's ambition to tie its vast, diverse regions together.
Yeah.
Boost economic growth, and reduce those regional differences.
So they're not just physical connections. They represent this deeper economic and social link. That's fascinating.
It really is. Makes you think about the long-term impact, the social and cultural changes that come with these massive projects. But for now, let's get back to the bridges themselves, the engineering marvels. We talked about seismic isolation bearings, but what other crazy innovations allowed these things to stand up to so much pressure, especially in areas prone to earthquakes? That is a great question, and it takes us deeper into the world of earthquake-resistant bridge design. Lots of cool stuff to unpack there.
So we've got these bridges, these incredible feats of engineering, designed to hold up against some serious forces, especially in those earthquake-prone regions. What other tricks do engineers have when it comes to making these bridges so earthquake-resistant? Is it like super materials or some futuristic tech we haven't even heard of?
Well, it's a mix of things.
Yeah.
Innovative design, for sure. Cutting-edge materials, yep. But also a deep understanding of how structures behave during an earthquake. That's crucial. One pretty fascinating technique is actually inspired by nature. Think about the flexibility of, say, limbs.
Wait, are you saying they're designing bridges that can, like, bend and sway like trees in the wind?
Sort of. Some of these modern bridges, they have columns with special joints and segments. It allows for controlled movement during an earthquake. So instead of the whole structure resisting the force rigidly, it can flex, dissipate that energy. Prevents catastrophic damage.
So you give the bridge a little give, let it ride out the earthquake instead of snapping under pressure. Pretty clever.
Exactly. There's another technique, too. Hybrid sliding rocking design. Imagine a sliding puzzle, those pieces moving around. That's kind of how it works. You design different segments of the bridge so they can actually slide or rock over each other during an earthquake.
So instead of the whole structure trying to stay put, it breaks down the force into smaller, more manageable movements?
Precisely. That way stress doesn't build up in one spot. The bridge is way more resilient to seismic forces. But material science is a huge part of this, too. You can't just rely on design alone.
Yeah, the materials themselves have to be strong enough to withstand these immense stresses, right? What are we talking about here?
We're talking super strong steel and concrete, engineered at a molecular level to handle incredible forces without crumbling. They often use special fibers to reinforce these materials, makes them even tougher and more flexible.
So it's like giving the bridge its own supersuit, making it, well, tougher and more resilient, like you said. Anything else that helps with earthquake resistance, design-wise, I mean?
Yep. Expansion joints. These are gaps they build right into the structure. Lets the bridge expand and contract with temperature changes without stressing the whole thing out. Helps it adapt to different conditions, including earthquakes.
Wow, it's amazing. It's this balance of strength, flexibility, and I guess you could say intelligent design. It's really incredible how engineers can create structures that can actually withstand the raw power of nature.
It's a testament to human ingenuity, that's for sure. And these innovations, they're not just for bridges. We use them for all sorts of structures, skyscrapers, houses, everything really. It's all about making our built environment safer, more resilient.
That's good to know. Feels like we're always learning, adapting, finding new ways to live with nature's forces instead of trying to control them completely.
Definitely a shift in thinking.
Yeah.
Moving forward, that's going to be key, especially with climate change and the need for sustainable infrastructure, stuff that can last.
Speaking of the future, what's next for bridge design? Will we see even longer spans, maybe bridges connecting continents, or bridges that use self-healing materials, constantly adapting and repairing themselves?
Now, those are some fascinating questions. The exciting thing is, future bridges will have to tackle more than just the physical challenges. They'll have to be environmentally friendly, too. We might see bridges that generate their own energy, using wind, solar, self-sustaining landmarks. Or bridges that blend in with the ecosystems around them, minimizing their impact.
Imagine a bridge that not only connects 2 points, but it creates clean energy and provides habitats for wildlife. That's the kind of bridge I want to see.
It's a vision worth striving for. And if you think about it, the way bridges have evolved, it really reflects our understanding of the world around us. From those simple beam bridges back in ancient times to the complex suspension and cable-stayed bridges we have today, Every innovation is a step forward in our knowledge of materials, forces, the environment, you name it.
It's this constant journey of exploration and innovation, driven by our need to connect, overcome challenges, and build a better future.
Absolutely. And that's something for you to think about as you continue to explore this topic. What will the longest bridges of the future look like? Will we measure them in miles or light years? Only time will tell.
Well, that's a thought-provoking way to wrap up our discussion on bridges. It's amazing how something that seems so simple, a bridge, can spark so much wonder and possibility.
It really is. And remember, bridges are more than just physical structures. They symbolize connection, progress, the human spirit, this constant drive to overcome challenges.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So next time you cross a bridge, just take a moment, think about all the ingenuity, all the effort, the vision it took to create it. Who knows, maybe you'll be inspired to build bridges of your own, whether they're physical, metaphorical, maybe even interplanetary.
And with that, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into the world of the longest bridges and the incredible engineering behind them.
Thanks for joining us on this journey, and until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep building those bridges. You know, it's amazing to think about how much history, how much innovation is packed into something as, well, seemingly simple as a bridge. We've gone from that mind-boggling scale of the Danyang-Kunshan Grand Bridge to all the little details of earthquake-resistant design. It really gives you a new appreciation for every bridge you cross, doesn't it?
What strikes me is how bridges have always been these catalysts for progress. Throughout history, I mean. They allowed trade to happen, connected communities, even shaped entire civilizations. And looking ahead, it's exciting to think about the role bridges will play in the future as our world keeps changing.
Yeah, you're right. It's not just about the physical structure itself, it's what they represent. Connection, ambition, that human drive to overcome obstacles. What do you think the legacy of these mega bridges, these record-breaking ones we talked about, what will that legacy be?
Well, I think if we look at history, it's safe to say they'll leave a pretty big mark on China's economy, on its society. They'll keep facilitating all that flow, the goods, the people, the ideas. It'll foster growth and development for, well, who knows how long.
Like planting the seeds for a future we can only imagine. And maybe these bridges will inspire a whole new generation of engineers and architects, right? Push the boundaries of what's possible, dream bigger.
That's the amazing thing about human ingenuity. It never stops evolving, always looking for new challenges, new solutions. Who knows? Maybe we'll see bridges that span not just rivers and oceans, but cultural divides too, connecting people in ways we haven't even thought of yet.
It's a beautiful thought, and a good reminder that bridges are so much more than concrete and steel. They're symbols of connection, human connection, and the power of working together.
Couldn't agree more. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into the world's longest bridges. It's been great exploring this with you.
Thanks for joining us. And remember, the next time you cross a bridge, take a second to appreciate all that went into it. The ingenuity, the effort, the vision. Who knows, you might be inspired to build a few bridges of your own.